First tonight, Mainers have plenty of stories to tell.
And one woman in York County is doing her part to capture them. Take a look.
Nicole Morin-Scribner would tell you she's a pretty good listener.
I'm also pretty passionate about capturing stories.
Two passions that have helped her bring a project called Voices of Biddeford to life. It's a series of interviews and a different approach to documenting the city's rich history through the eyes of the people and families who have lived there.
I started with the Good Shepherd sisters, who were the teachers when I went to school here in Biddeford. And then every time I did an interview, I was recommended someone else. Now, you were talking about, and of course you've shown me pictures from this, so which book did this come from where there's pictures of your...
It comes from a Canadian book.
Oh, really?
It was sort of a religious, it came out once a month.
We're all aware of major historical things that have happened, but this tells history from what it was like to live it. And there are some things that could disappear if you don't talk about it, and this helps people to understand what they went through.
Nicole moved to Biddeford from Quebec, Canada when she was 6 years old, and says sharing her own story brought back a lot of memories and new perspectives.
I think of my dad, who had grown up on a family farm, and that was his passion, is he enjoyed being outdoors and working with the animals, but economically could not continue that. He left his country and came here first and then worked in the pepperell mills. I mean, talk about different. You're inside, no air conditioning, pre-OSHA, all that noise. You can't even see the sunshine. But he did that. He did that for me so that I was able to have some opportunities.
Some of those interviewed are new to the area. Others, like Spiros Dragidis, can trace their roots back multiple generations.
Well, these are my grandparents, Spiros and Georgia Dragidis. They came here in 1906, and these are their 8 children. This is my dad, Charlie. My parents didn't really talk too much about why their parents came here, other than they were looking for a better life.
Dragidis always wanted to learn more about where his family came from, and recently started doing a little digging into his own family tree. He was amazed at what he learned. My
grandfather initially worked in the mills, but by the 1920 census, it showed him as a shop owner. So in that, and I'm sure he didn't know how to speak English when he came here. So I don't know whether he ever did learn how to speak English, but he knew how to repair shoes. And so he started a shop. And then in 1921, he had to vacate that building, and he bought adjoining buildings on Washington Street. And he ran that as a business. My father and his 7 siblings lived above the store. And then my father and his brother started the restaurant in 1935.
That restaurant was the Wonder Bar, a landmark in Biddeford that would remain in the Dragidis family until it was sold to new owners in 1982.
The Wonder Bar was open 364 days a year. It was only closed on Christmas Day. They worked very hard, the 4 brothers, to run a successful business, so to make the lives of their families, better.
Nicole says that desire for a better life is the foundation for a lot of the stories captured for the project.
One of the things that I really came away with when I was hearing all these stories is how similar they were. The struggles that they went through, how hard they worked, especially when they first came to this community. Not to mention some little funny anecdotes too. Like, one thing that comes to mind is when I interviewed someone who, Biddeford used to be a mecca for speed skating. And it was like the thing in town. And we had one individual who won. I mean, his house is just absolutely full of all kinds of trophies. He competed nationally. And one of the things that he shared is when he first started doing that, people didn't have money. And so do you know what they wore for uniforms? They dyed long underwear, and that's what they wore as uniforms for their speed skating.
And we normally like to start these interviews with asking the person being interviewed, when and where were you born?
I was born here in Biddeford, and I lived in Biddeford all my life, really.
The hope is that people everywhere, not just residents of Biddeford, will listen to the interviews and learn something new, and maybe be inspired to start capturing the stories of those around them, too.
When you are meeting with someone that's important to you, someone that's meaningful to you, and I know that often happens where they're telling stories, it's so easy to capture it, and there's no more precious gift. And I would encourage other people to do it. I know how much it has meant to me.
You can check out the Voices of Biddeford interview series on the Biddeford Cultural and Heritage website. We'll have a link for you on our website and our app.